call the meeting to order. This is for Melissa. It's an update on the railroads project, and then an executive session after we'll discuss our contract. Melissa, you'd like the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And thank you all. Catch my breath. This is a challenging time of day for mom, but they're in, they're settled, they got the green light to order Sandy's Delis, and they're extremely excited about that. I do have my phone on. If I'm interrupted, I'll only pick up if it's mine too. You know, this is the fourth time we've met in as many weeks, and not one day has it been dreary and drizzly and cold. Every night's been a beautiful night. Probably 4 nice nights that we've had during the week. And we've had to come in, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to give you an update, and thank you to all of you for coming to listen. I thought that the way to start tonight is just to give you the quick 2 cents on the D&H project. I hung up the phone just before I ran to get ready for this meeting, hung up the phone with DOT and our engineer. In fact, they were still in the process of going through DOT's comments and questions on the rebid package. They promised me that they will email the bid proposal that we can then ask Carol to publish in the D&H by midweek. DOT will place the ad in the contract reporter, which is the required place it has to be, by Monday, May 21st. The documents will be available on May 21st in the village, and bids will be opened on June 18th. So it's not, hasn't happened yet, but that was what I promised. I was promised just before I hung up the phone. So hopefully that's our timeline. Okay.
The bids are going to go out since when?
The bids, we should be publishing the notice to bidders by the end of this week, Monday at the latest. And then the bids, that gives 4 weeks for the contractors to look at the project.
Yep.
And then we'll have bid opening right here on June 18th, 11:30. Bids are due at 11 and bid opening at 11:30. Okay?
Yep.
So that's the update on that. And then, now that we took care of the urgent business, I thought that probably the best thing to do is similar to what we did for the D&H project. To kind of back up, go back to the beginning of the project, look at what the purpose was of the whole revitalization effort, give you a little bit of history, and then let you know what's on the table for board action in the next couple of weeks. Sound okay in terms of an approach?
Yeah.
All right, hi dear, sure. The revitalization effort in Rouse's Point had really begun before I became involved. It started at the end of the 1990s. There was a village beautification effort where ornamental streetlights were installed in the downtown, flowers were hung. It really was based around beautification. The village was one of the designated communities for the whole Clinton, Essex, Lake Champlain waterfront in the 1997 waterfront revitalization that was done by the plan that was done by the county. And because of that, the first check that George always talked about, the $200,000 check from Governor Pataki, came to the village in 1998. It took a while for the village to make a plan what to do, but that money went into the beginning of the new boat launch on Montgomery Street. The restrooms were built, and then the plan continued into what else can happen on the waterfront and so on. We were chosen as one of the 12 quality communities in New York State. Our county legislator at the time, Celine Paquette, knew the Secretary of State. They had gone to school together. She drove him across the bridge, showed him Rouse's Point. He was very impressed by what he saw, and a few years later, we were designated as a quality community. That led to funding to do the downtown and waterfront revitalization plan. Several people who are here today were part of that process back in 2004, 2005, 2006. It has been pretty much the guiding document that has led our efforts over the past 6 years since it was adopted. And I think a couple of pages of it best sum up what the whole revitalization effort has been about. So I thought that would probably be a good place to start. Don't know if all of you had a chance to read the whole 100+ pages of the plan, but I'm gonna highlight for you kind of the key pieces that are still very relevant today. And I apologize, I should have learned by now to make handouts for everyone, but I'll try to fill you in as best I can. You go, Tracy. Okay, so the Department of State follows a standard process for communities when they help with revitalization. They believe that the best plans come from the ideas of the people in the town. So they tell you, form a steering committee of people from throughout the village, gather your residents and have them tell you what they want, and then that's what goes into the plan. And we did that. We had a big meeting in January of 2005 down in the basement of the church. I know some of you were there. We had a follow-up meeting with businesses in the evening because we knew a Saturday afternoon was a tough time for them. And that's all what went into developing the vision for the future of downtown Rouse's Point. And it's a really important thing to look at because a lot of us would like to bring back the downtown Rouse's Point of our childhoods. Unfortunately, because of changes in the marketplace and changes in the world, that downtown isn't coming back. So it's important to look at what we decided was possible and something to shoot for, because they're slightly different. So if you take a look, the vision talks about before World War II what downtowns were. I'm sure you've all seen the old postcards of what our downtown was. And then it talks about how downtowns have changed in the second paragraph. The interstate highway system changed the way Americans shop. Malls, like the malls in Plattsburgh, mid-70s, changed the marketplace completely in Clinton County. And so what happened in downtowns, stores closed, businesses moved out, shopping or property values fell, and the importance of it as a commercial center in a lot of places dropped. So the point is that if you're going to revitalize the downtown today, you have to look for new ways to bring in business and customers, and this is the third paragraph. They go on to talk about, sometimes there's an impulse to just fill everything, but that you really want to look for the uses that are going to add real value economically to Rouse's Point. And when I talk about economic value, the kind of three things I would ask you to keep in mind. One would be increases in jobs. Two would be increases in property tax revenue. And the third would be just a general boost to the overall efforts of the community. A business that's just going to help because it adds to that mass of key businesses in the area. So then it goes on and describes our downtown. But the key thing is that the plan is based upon steps that we can take to get to the downtown that will work for Rouse's Point. And you'll have this to keep, you can read it. It goes through the public visioning process on the bottom of page 6, the second page. And then when you get to the third page of the handout on page 8, Vision for Downtown Rouse's Point. This was what the community told us, this is what the planning consultant said makes sense, and this is what the village board adopted in 2006. Rouse's Point's downtown can be brought back to life and revitalized by making it a destination with shops and entertainment venues that attract local residents, regional residents, Canadian leisure travelers, and area tourists. 2, establishing connections to the lakefront so that downtown and the lake are connected. The village made a big step toward that when you took down that old building that was behind Vinnie's building that had been kind of blocking the view to the waterfront. Just opening that up, taking that building down, opened up the view to the waterfront. Enhancing the pedestrian experience so it's more pleasant to walk around in the downtown, preserving and enhancing the historic character of downtown buildings, and enforcing regulations to ensure a clean and safe downtown. And it's kind of all common sense, but all important things to keep in mind. And then common themes, guiding principles kind of reiterates some of that, and also talks about connecting to the tourism economy. And that's something that we've heard loud and clear from our friends at the Chamber of Commerce, that Rouse's Point has a tremendous opportunity. If we were sitting in the middle of Iowa, we wouldn't have the opportunity we do, but we are 45 minutes south of 3 million people. that have a lot of disposable income to spend. They already come down and spend their money in Vermont and other places in New York. There's certainly an opportunity to get them to spend more of it in Rouse's Point. And that's a large part of what's in the next page, 44, the market focus. And yeah, I'm gonna try to stick to the economic theme tonight, because to me, that's what this is all about. And it just goes on to talk about, the two kinds of stores that market analysis said would work in Rouse's Point. One is easy, it's neighborhood retail. The stuff that people in Rouse's Point will patronize and buy goods and services at. The agency with its offering insurance product, mostly local businesses, or mostly local clients, I'm sure, that go to the agency. Lakeside Coffee, a little different. They do use the local market, but they're also a destination where people will drive into Plattsburgh or stop coming south from Montreal to go to Lakeside. And that represents that second kind of store, the destination, the one that's gonna get people off the boats in the marina, to walk up into the downtown and spend money, the one that might get people to drive from Plattsburgh or Montreal to come and shop. So the market focus for the downtown is to try to hit both those groups, a balance of neighborhood retail that's gonna cater to your residents, and also the destination type shop. And to my mind, Lakeside Coffee is a classic example of it can work. With superior product and an appealing design, you can run a business in Rouse's Point. There's a market. So that's kind of the shining example. And again, I'll leave this with you, but that's the explanation of what the revitalization effort was supposed to be about. To try to build the business base, both neighborhood and also the tourist destination economy, to bring life back into the downtown and just to help the village in general. All right, so that's the kind of the goal. In the implementation, in the downtown waterfront plan, there was a whole series of steps to take to get there. This is our implementation matrix. It was, for those of you that had the plan, it was tucked in the back pocket. I pulled mine out, but that's where it lived. And this is the steps to get there. What do you do then, Rouse's Point, if you want to be a tourist destination? What steps do you take? I've gone through and I've highlighted the things we've done, or the things that we are in progress, are actually in progress now. No doubt a challenging climate. This plan was in progress when Wyeth announced that it would be closing. Rather difficult market. Add to that the financial collapse of 2008. Extremely, the worst recession since the Great Depression. And it's been challenging times. But during those challenging times, you've still seen about 20 new businesses open up in Rouse's Point. Some have made it, some have not. And that's pretty typical for small business, but there's been a pretty good record on that. And the village's efforts to try to implement their plan were so good that your board was awarded a New York Planning, Upstate Planning Association Award for implementation. It's hanging on the wall somewhere here, I think. Just last year, you guys won for implementing your plan. And here's why. When you try to revitalize a downtown or any area, there's some key things you need to do. One, you need to get organized so that you can sustain an effort. You need to make the physical appearance of the place as appealing as possible. People like to shop in places that are nice, neat, safe feeling. That's what gets people out of their cars. And they can't spend money if they're not going to get out of their car. So you need to make what we call the aesthetics, the design, as appealing as possible. We needed to enhance the waterfront because that is our biggest asset. Again, the waterfront is so close to Montreal. And you need to try to work on restructuring our economy so you bring in those businesses that are the key. Well, and then you market. You promote as much as you can. So that's what the village has done over the past 5 years, and those of you who are on the board who have followed this know that. You established a system where businesses who were interested in locating in Rouse's Point could contact me for assistance and information. As I sat with Chris Deuce's business group, which needs a new name, okay, we don't have to label it with Chris, and looked around the people at the table, there weren't any faces that I hadn't met and talked with as they were coming into the village. That's important, not to be a cheerleader, but to be able to tie people into resources, to the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center, to funding sources, and help with regulations that, as I'm sure Joe could tell you, are lots of fun to deal with as you run a business. So that's the kind of thing that you have been funding over the past few years. You also did a lot of marketing and promotion. You built a beautiful website with grant funding, nicest one that I've ever seen for any small municipality. Turned the village website into really something that promotes the entire community. And that is your main front door now. Your website is the way most people find you first. They might come driving through, but chances are they've seen the website first. So that was a very successful project that the village did. We tried a social media outreach, not so successful. We learned a lot about Twitter and Facebook, but that I don't think is the best mechanism to reach potential businesses. I think you have better ones available to you. On the website, we were able to post a directory of businesses in the village, so that if somebody was looking for a restaurant, they can go right in, they can see all of the restaurants. They can go, if the restaurant has a website, they can link directly to that website. And that in itself was a wonderful asset, I think, to your businesses, because if you Google Rouse's Point businesses, the first thing you're gonna get is, you're gonna find them is probably the Rouse's Point website business directory. That's where they're and that's popped them up in the Google searches, so they come up faster. So that's been a wonderful thing that you were able to do. There was a huge amount of promotion that's gone on in this village through volunteers, the creation of the stage, all the events that the stage committee has done, historical society events. There's been a lot of outreach to try to make Rouse's Point appealing as a place to come and recreate and spend time. So those would be the major promotional successes. In terms of physical enhancements and design, we have done a lot, as you know. You look at the before and afters on Montgomery Street, starting with the boat launch and what it was before it was paved and striped, and there were restrooms there, the walkway, the pier. If you go to the New York State Department of State Coastal Resources website, when you click on, right on the opening page, you'll see the Rouse's Point Pier as their image. You are featured. As we talked before about the Clinton County Destination Plan, there's your pier. It's on the Parks website, because they helped fund it. It's the premier image on the waterfront that people call. So definitely a tremendous accomplishment. Last year, the crew worked and got the streetlights into Veterans Park, all the way down Montgomery Street. The village did physical enhancements on its own that served as match. Streetlights in the downtown, fixing up the pavers, all contributing to improving the appearance. There have been banners, there's the beautiful hanging baskets that are done every year. Again, all improving the experience of people that are here. Okay, one of the most gratifying projects that we worked on was being able to get some grant funding to private properties to improve buildings in the downtown. Al Kaufman's building was done with the Main Street project. It furnished half of his expenses. The village board helped with IAEP money for windows and doors. The agency, what was Mrs. Bayshard's building that Rick Sluska bought, was done with Main Street money. Lakeside Coffee was done with Main Street money. The parking lot signage was all done. The benches and bike rack were all provided by Main Street money. So a lot of really nice accomplishments there that have made a big difference in the downtown. Okay, so those are the successes. We've also had our areas where I feel we haven't done as well as we could have, and areas that I would urge the board to turn their attention to down the road. The organization side, getting everybody on the same page, so everybody knows what the goal is, everybody knows how we get there. It's kind of like Disney World training. You go to Disney World, everybody in Disney World, whether they're working behind a counter, they're taking tickets, they're running rides, they know what the Disney World experience is supposed to be. You are supposed to have a fantastic time, be perfectly safe, everything's clean, everything's family friendly. There's a training they do so that everybody gets that. I think we should have done that. I think we have not been successful in having everybody in the village organization understand the goals of the revitalization effort, what their part is. I don't think we've gotten as good buy-in as we would hope. And so that would be something that if the village chooses to continue the effort, I would really urge getting a revitalization committee organized again, so you have people out in the village. You already have this great linkage with the business group, they're so enthused, I know they'll be glad to help. But, you know, so, and really, the planning board, the zoning board, codes enforcement, the village staff, everybody, then out into the community, so that everybody can kind of say, what's going on, why, what's my part, how do I help? That, to me, is essential, and that, you know, if anybody's gonna take responsibility, my job to make sure that's communicated, and I don't think it has been as well as it should have. So that would be something I would propose to work on. You know, it's complex. Some of this stuff it's not easy, and it does glaze your eyes over. My sister used to say to me, stop with the alphabet, just no more letters. What are you trying to tell me? And it is, but if you think the payoff's worth it, then I would definitely encourage the village to consider that. You know, the thing is, we're in competition. Rouse's Point is in competition with all of the other communities in this area. You're competing for capital and you're competing for entrepreneurs. You need people to come here and set up businesses and bring their money with them. And you need to convince the people who are here to stay. And people want to go to places where the tide is rising. They do not want to go to places where the message isn't positive. And so I would really urge you to keep that in mind, that, you know, if we have to sell ourselves if we want to keep and grow our business community. The other thing is we have to sell ourselves to residents if we want to keep our residential base. We've been so fortunate. We've benefited from two major things over the past decade. One, high prices in Vermont that have driven people here because housing was so much less expensive. And two, the huge growth in Homeland Security. We've had a ready stream of people where they want to live in Rouse's Point, because it's a safe, beautiful place, because this facility, huge, Pacific Center, people want to live here. We need to stay a place where people want to choose to live. People that, you know, are mobile and can choose where they want to go. That, we need to keep those people here. We need to convince them that this is a good place to go. So those are just some thoughts about things that we need to think about. I think that if you had a chance to review this packet of recommendations I gave you at the board meeting, you'll find a lot of this echoed in terms of recommendations. I particularly like the ones to try to offer some incentives for businesses to improve their properties. I think those are really exciting. In case I forget to tell you, this is a draft document. You probably saw that as you read it. If we could get comments from you, maybe by the board, next week's board meeting, this is your document, so anything you want changed, edited, added, if you could let me know, we'll get to the planning consultant to River Street and ask them to make any changes. Because again, these documents are produced to help you out as you make your decisions and move forward. Okay, so, and you know, the other thing, again, we have more to do on the economic restructuring front, on actually trying to target the businesses and get to them and bring them in. We have a lot of new partners. that are very exciting in their potential. I mean, Joe, I hope you don't mind, Joe Treadwell, AKA Joe Gaines, is sitting in the back of the room. Joe has lots of people with lots of capital that cruise on into his marina every week. He has connections with people who are looking, who have potential, have interest in this area. Actively courting those people, bringing them in, all essential. And the other thing is figuring out what appeals to them. Joe shared something with me that really has changed my thinking about the Canadian market and about the importance of what they like when they look at a place. And it really has, it didn't leave me, Joe, about the historic is not such an appeal to them. The modern, the bright, the shiny, but boy, it better be pretty nice looking is the key. And then you think about Lakeside Coffee, which is quite modern. It's a good example of that. So, reaching out into the business community, following up on leads, working with your businesses would be another thing. You have a great critical mass now of people to work with. Okay, I've thrown a huge amount of stuff at you. I would like to get into the grant programs that are on the table for you to decide about, but can I answer any questions first before we get too far away from any questions you may have? Keep going? Okay, all right. Staying with that theme of economic restructuring and trying to develop the businesses that you want and need. The #1 grant project, and I'm not gonna have you look at a handout again, I'm just gonna go through these with you. The #1 grant that, of course, I would ask you to take action on very soon is the Micro Enterprise Program grant. The $200,000 you were awarded in December to assist new businesses or existing businesses in the community. And there are lots of hoops to jump through. I promise you, if you do this, you will regret it because you undoubtedly will have business owners who don't get funded and would like to be. There is no good deed goes unpunished. This will be one of them. But for the people that are, $35,000 in working capital is a great boost to a business. Being able to purchase equipment, that would be, it's a real nice thing. And it's also a wonderful incentive to offer anybody that wants to commit. And I would urge you, as you develop your program for this, to think about that. Think about who gets priority for funding. Is it a sports equipment rental place? Is it a bed and breakfast? Pick out the things you'd like to see. You might have seen the town of Plattsburgh announcement in the paper a week or so ago, 10 days ago. Get it in the paper, loud and clear what you're looking for, urge people that want to open a business where there's a great opportunity to call Rouse's Point. So if you're going to proceed with that, then you need to put out a request for proposals for the actual grant administration and project management on that. Okay, so that's all within the grant, that's in the $200,000 that's covered. So that would be kind of the next step for you. Any questions on the micro grant?
Just, not really.
And that, I would also recommend that the board not take responsibility for that. You have to have responsibility for the grant, but you appoint a program review committee of bankers, businessmen. You don't want someone's handing out the money, you don't want to make that. I mean, to me, it'd be better to remove yourself, put that in the hands of people who can almost look at it like a loan application. That's what I would recommend. What's your business plan? What are you going to do with the money? What's the benefit down the road? So, and again, for anybody out there listening in the public, it's a wonderful program. Lots of hoops. You have to create a low or moderate income job or be a low or moderate income business owner. There's a training course you have to take. It's a reimbursement program, so you have to spend the money and then get reimbursed. Those are all just kind of disclaimers. But for people that qualify, hopefully it'll be a nice thing for you to offer. Okay, along the lines of economic restructuring again, you have a grant that was awarded back in 2009 that we have had on hold, waiting for this board to take office and make a decision. It's grant funding that was specifically targeted for the tough nuts to crack, the downtown and waterfront properties that have not moved by themselves, that the market's not taking care of. And the money was to figure out what to do to move those properties. And I don't want to list any, but you know what they are. The ones that everybody says, oh, wouldn't this be wonderful for, but maybe the cost of doing that is too much for a business. So then what we need to do is we need to look at each of those properties, talk to the property owner, and figure out what's holding up that development. If it's the fact that it's going to cost $300,000 to fix all the walls that broke because the pipes froze, and the whole interior needs to be fixed, then we need to figure out how we can help that business owner. If we get a business that's interested in coming in, then there's potentially funding to help that person out. So it gives us that knowledge base to look with, trying to move these properties. The other thing that it would allow us to do, and this was a huge interest expressed by the business group, it might allow us to look at feasibility of expanding accommodation choices in the village. There's a lot of debate about whether the market could sustain a small hotel. That's a possibility. If not, then how do we get some interest in maybe an inn or some bed and breakfast? Because offering a wider range of accommodations in the village would definitely help encourage people to come and stay here. Some people, are looking for kind of the traditional motel experience. Other people are looking for different things when they travel. So that would be a possibility for that money too. Now that's a I should talk about money. It's a $10,000 grant, so it's not going to go terribly far. But I think we could twist some arms with some donated services from, say, the Small Business Development Center, the Chamber, the AEDC, the Adirondack Economic Development Corporation. It's already matched by the services I've donated over the past year. It had a $10,000 match. I'm over $9,000 now, and it's not going to take long to get to 10. So you basically have your match in hand for that if you want to proceed with that grant. And again, the ability to know more about our market. I mean, we know a lot. We did this comprehensive redevelopment strategy, which is more of an industrial, kind of commercial redevelopment analysis of vacant properties. But the more you can do to kind of present a business with a, hey, have you thought about this business plan? Or present interested people with those business plans, the better off you are. Okay, just quickly on the micro grant has no village match. It is the property owner, or the business owners have to show 10% in their own spending, but again, that can be in working capital, so that's a pretty easy thing to show. Your administration and program management would come right out of the grant, and I would recommend you hire a consultant to do that. The only expense would be the village representative to kind of be the meet and greet, the person to meet with the new business and get them hooked up to the consultants and everybody else they need. So it would be somebody locally to step into that job. Okay. Okay. When you finish with this report, this is going to pretty much wrap up the 2005 grant we have. I'm not even going to bother you with that. It's done. It just needs to be closed out. And if you have any questions, we can deal with that one at another time. There's really no major decision to be made on that. One more thing, and then we'll get to the last one. This is not a grant project, but it is a project that I have been working on since 2005, and that is the impact of Pfizer's closure. We obviously are going to take a huge hit in terms of our tax base. There's still employment there that will be lost. Huge impact, I know, on the water and sewer systems. The village commissioned a study last spring. We paid the Technical Assistance Center to do an analysis of this impact. I would strongly urge you to be thinking about how to best use that going forward. When is the appropriate time to talk about impact aid to the village from the closure? Mayor Rivers and I were told back in 2005, 2006, that if there was not a buyer, there was not an operator to step in and run that facility, that Wyeth would talk to us about the fact they know that the water and sewer system was the people who were in Wyeth then knew that the water and sewer systems were sized for Wyeth's usage, half the system. I don't know when the appropriate time is, but I would really urge you to keep that line of communication open. We're not dealing with Wyeth anymore. Unfortunately, we're dealing with Pfizer, different animal, but that is something that needs to be done. Along those same lines, and this could perhaps be done with some of our existing grant money, I really have talked to the mayor, I've talked to Trustee Jefferson. I really believe that it's essential that this village get the numbers on paper now, the worst case scenario, for all of the departments and all of the accounts, so that we know what we're up against and we're looking at reality. Now we need to look at what we can change and what we can't change, because a lot of it's not really changeable in the short term. But having that and knowing that for the village is essential. I also believe that measuring the impact in the community, the business, the market is important. Because my theory would be that, and I do not mean to sound insensitive, I have very good friends that are among the 300 left at Wyeth. And I'll tell you, I got called in to do a presentation on Rouse's Point revitalization in September of 2005, and we were down at the fairgrounds in Clinton County, and it was that point I met all my old friends from school, their kids. There were 1,200 people that circulated through, and oh, you're doing such great, this is so nice, we love it. And within 2 weeks, they announced that the plant was going to close. So believe me, I know the faces, I know who they are, and the impact on those individuals who are losing their jobs and their families is tremendous. But I think the impact on Rouse's Point's market is perhaps overstated. Not the village and the cost of services, but the market, the business climate for running a business here or opening a business. I believe that the basic market is not going to be tremendously impacted like the village services are. And so I would really urge the village to take a look, to analyze that, to look at for Joe Gaines' Marina, what's the impact? Lakeside Coffee, what's the impact? You know, really to take a look. Because remember now, we do the neighborhood retail, we also do the destination. So those are just projects I would urge you to turn your attention to. Okay, last one that's on the table is our 2011 local waterfront. Our friends from local waterfront funded us last December with $125,000 to finish up the train station project, because we knew we were going to be able to, hopefully, knock on wood if I can find something, do the building, but we weren't going to be able to get the site landscape the way we wanted, you know, the nice ramp up to the building and some plantings and everything. So Brian and the crew had already started undergrounding Pratt Street at that point. We knew that there was going to be a tremendous amount of money spent putting those wires underground. And I came to the board and proposed that you consider taking advantage of that match to get some money to finish up the train station and to get some money to pay somebody to help you do all these good things that we just talked about. Help run them over, help get with the businesses, help do the, you know, work with Wyeth Pfizer, all of those things. And you got funded. This is one of your 2 regional council projects. This is the one that, you know, if you choose to go forward, does have funding to, well, the streetlights are already, I guess, already purchased, but to make that connection up to the D&H station with the streetlights and finish the site. So that's the last grant that is kind of on the table for decisions. You have a couple little ones that we can deal with at another time. The mayor has this contract from DOS. It's ready to sign if you're ready to go forward. This is one of the 2, remember I told you at the last meeting that we're being tracked on. So making progress is essential. I know there are issues in terms of the underground electric project. I have some ideas for you on that, along that line, that maybe I can share with you in executive session, because it does deal with a contractual issue. But even if you found you couldn't do the undergrounding, you still could take advantage of the investment you made in the streetlights on Pratt Street, or on Lake Street. About $50,000 probably for the streetlights, not even counting what the guys' hours were putting them in. You already have match to continue with getting somebody to help you with these projects if you want to move them forward, and to help you try to work through the issue of getting the lines underground on the way up to the train station. So that funding, again, that part is matched. It is part of the grant, and it would be at your disposal. So, can I answer any questions for you?
I just wanted to tell you that we met with Steve Southwood,
Yes.
and there's no way they can do it this year.
Right, and we wouldn't expect to be in construction until next year, and there's maybe a possibility there to help out with that. I think so. They'll have to see, but I think so, hopefully.
Good.
For the Pfizer impact, do you have it in writing that Wyatt said they would help us out with electric and sewer?
No.
So,
We have a letter, that, I would have to dig out the letter from Rovier Vincent. I could dig that letter out that expresses goodwill. They were a wonderful partner to deal with. And, you know, we had at that point, and I think we still do have friends in the building. But, no, I don't believe there's anything in writing that.
Okay.
And, you know, the other thing that they did, they applied with us for grant funding to look at what to do with that site, because that's the other thing about the Pfizer facility. What will happen to it? You probably saw this article in the newspaper on how Shazy is being taken over by the Clinton County IDA. They're gonna, you know, my sense is they've done that because they feel it's marketable, it's a very special site. I do not know whether that possibility would be here for the Rouse's Point facilities, certainly something that you can investigate. But the village does need to think about what will happen there, because it will be ours. Bringing jobs back, that will be a regional concern. Bringing jobs to Rouse's Point, that will have to be our concern, because, you know, the jobs, again, you're competing, they can go anywhere, and it'll be Rouse's Point's concern to bring them in, and probably the problem with the facility is just for anybody that is likely to come to Rouse's Point. So we had funding, we had over $250,000 to look at how it could be reconfigured, what should come down, what should stay. There are a lot of concerns about what can happen in certain parts of it in the future because of what it's been used for. There will probably be some covenants on that. So what is possible? So that kind of planning, I believe, will fall to the Village of Rouse's Point. I do not believe that will be done by anyone else. So something else to think about, and I know we would, I mean, I'm very convinced that would be fundable. So, any other questions I can answer for you?
Anybody got questions? No, I guess not, miss.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right, we'll like to request an executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
I'll second that.
Any discussions? Roll call vote. All right.
Aye.
Brad?
aye.
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 And the mayor votes aye. All righty, we will adjourn. We'll take a quick recess and then go into executive session.
Could we ask the public to go out for a few minutes so we can go into executive session? And you can come back for the second meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna have a second meeting right after this.
Hey, Mr. Bishop, how are you? Good,
I'll stop. Yeah, it's an hour. Yeah. We're gonna put a fresh one in, we are.